In today's episode of Better Late Than Never Wall Street, some new research from Morgan Stanley, often more accurately referred to as Moron Stanley. Shout out to Adam Jonas's 4-year-old Tesla bear case, which split adjusted was 66 cents per share. Sorry, Adam, but I'm never going to let you live that one down. The real reason Tesla's sharing its charging network? Today's gas stations pay a market price for their petroleum supply. What if Tesla made its own electricity at near zero marginal cost and stable, stored on site with stationary batteries? It's not hard to see logic of achieving dominance in the filling station of the future. Spoiler alert, duh. It's inevitable over the longer term. Tesla will be generating electricity, storing electricity, and using that electricity at their supercharger sites. I've been talking about this from day one on the channel. It's obvious. Of course, they're not going to do it yet because it's better for Tesla to sell this hardware, solar and batteries to consumers today. There's insane demand. They can mark that stuff up. But over the long term, obviously, if you're going to have the world's most comprehensive network of charging sites, rather than buying electricity from somebody else producing it, if you can produce it and store it yourself, which Tesla can, obviously this is inevitable. So congratulations to Morgan Stanley for finally figuring this out. Might I make a suggestion, Morgan Stanley, please? I highly recommend at least somebody at Morgan Stanley subscribe over on my Twitter to see all my thoughts and comments about Tesla that you guys will be posting notes about in 4 years' time. Maybe just to reduce the timeline a little bit. And I'd probably encourage the folks at Morgan Stanley to also head over to my Patreon, join at the investor level and above, grab a copy of my Tesla valuation model so you can copy my homework and save yourselves once again being roasted when you publish things years after I've done so already. Now, I know I sound like a bit of a D-bag at the moment, but I'm just trying to help these guys out. As we'll see later in this video, the roasting is well justified. And I guess that goes to everyone watching as well. If you haven't seen my Tesla valuation model, unlucky for you. I guess you'll have to wait until the broader stock market figures out what's been in my valuation model for years, at which point Tesla stock may not quite be the bargain it is today. The recent announcements from both Ford and Government Motors joining the Tesla supercharger network have spurred questions from investors trying to size the opportunity from both the angles of the legacy OEMs, as well as what it could mean for Tesla. To help further the market's understanding, the portions of the market who don't have my Tesla valuation model, that is, we have created a simple model/framework to test a range of inputs and sensitivity analyses and potential impact on Tesla earnings and valuation. A few thoughts and concepts to consider. What could the economics to Tesla be in 10 years if the company had a dominant share of charging infrastructure and the majority of the power used is acquired at near zero cost, either from renewable generation, i.e. solar, or at night when combined with on-site storage, megapacks, and discharged in the middle of the day during peak demand when drivers have fewer alternatives. So just to make sure everyone's understanding here, option 1, generate the energy with solar, store it in your batteries. Both can happen at the same time. Tesla can also just pull energy from the grid in the middle of the night when it's dirt cheap, store it in the megapacks, and then use that during peak times, sold at peak prices, and make an enormous profit. This is energy arbitrage at its finest. I think both of these things will happen. We think the consideration of Tesla's supercharging stations should be seen in concert with the company's vertically integrated capabilities in renewable energy and storage at scale. I agree. This is where things can get very interesting. By the way, I don't want anyone to choke to death, so make sure you're not eating or consuming any beverages for the next few seconds. Seriously. EVs account for around 7% of new car sales in the US year to date. By 2030... Shit, man, I can't do this with a straight face. By 2030... oh god damn it, we estimate that US EV penetration will hit 25%. God damn it, dude. You can't take this back, Moron Stanley. The internet will never forget, and I will never let you forget. Just like Adam Jonas's hilarious 66 cents split adjusted bear case price target for Tesla stock published 4 years ago. One more time. Moron Stanley have just published a new research note mid-2023. They're on the record. They estimate that in 2030, only 25% of new vehicles sold in the United States will be electric. Please, everyone watching, set a reminder to check back early 2031 so I can revisit this video and roast these morons. Unbelievable. More embarrassing still, by 2040, they expect just 75% of all new vehicles sold in the US will be electric. In 2040, I have no idea what these clowns are thinking, if they're thinking at all. I'm going to make a bet. Morgan Stanley's thinking 25% by 2030. I'll go out on a limb and say that their idiotic 2040 forecast of 75% penetration will be much closer to the mark in 2030. In other words, the percent of new vehicles sold in the United States in 2030 that are electric will be closer to 75%, possibly quite a bit higher than 25%. If it's 49%, Morgan Stanley win. If it's 51%, I win, and spoiler alert, my best guess, it's probably going to be around 80%, give or take. Could even be higher. But the point is, Their margin of error is shocking. Now, I don't know what's going to happen, but I do have a brain. It's a lot smaller than the folks at Morgan Stanley, which is an indictment on them. But using my very small brain and looking at all of the available evidence and thinking a little bit, I'm very confident in putting this on the record. Morgan Stanley's estimate for 75% EV penetration is more than a decade off. It's just super embarrassing. And the reason I mention this now is because all the forecasts that they're putting out in this research note are based on this EV penetration number, which is catastrophically low. I don't understand how people who are so academically intelligent can be so dumb at the same time. We need to get Tony Sieber or Adam Dorr on the phone with these clowns to have a discussion. Seriously. Someone make it happen. We also forecast EV miles driven, a fundamental underpinning of any EV infrastructure model, and this is why I just mentioned that. They're forecasting EV miles driven on embarrassingly low EV sales volumes. We forecast EVs account for less than 1% of US miles travelled today, rising to 8% by 2030, 22% by 2035, 50% by 2040, and nearly 90% by 2050. You guys noticed something super embarrassing here? There's barely any increase in total EV miles travelled between now, I'm not kidding, and 2030. Look at this. This is US total EV miles travelled. And it looks like there's a mistake. We have an increase from 2015 up to 2019, then a drop during the scamdemic when the fascist lockdowns forced people to stay at home or people were scared shitless because of all the propaganda in the fake news. I'm going to die if I leave my house. I'm never going to let you dumbasses forget that shit either. I got absolutely annihilated when I started speaking out against this on YouTube. Not everybody, but a lot of you lost your fucking mind. You want my grandmother to die? Fuck you. Yeah, anyway, 2021, 22, 23. Marginal increase, and there's basically no change for a whole fucking decade. Why? Because their estimates are shockingly low. They're thinking 25% of new vehicles sold at the end of the decade will be electric. Today, around 7%. So they're probably like 7, 8, 10, 11, 13, 15. You get it right. Idiots. I cannot fathom the level of potato. And again, all of their assumptions are based on this embarrassingly low estimate for EV miles travelled when it comes to supercharging. So let's have a look at those in a sec. For our NOPAT model, by the way, that's net operating profit after tax. We make key assumptions around items such as percent of charging done at home, Tesla's share of the commercial charging opportunity, efficiency of the average battery, revenue per kilowatt hour, and NOPAT margin. For our multiple-based approach, we flex the same assumptions, placing a 20 times multiple on 2030 NOPAT and discount it back to the present at a 9% weighted average cost of capital. Some sensitivity/case observations from our model. The following cases, by the way, I highly encourage you folks, go request Morgan Stanley's model or just get mine on Patreon. The following cases are based on 2030 miles travelled, US only, 20% supercharging share, 4 miles per kilowatt hour efficiency, and revenue charged at 32 cents per kilowatt hour. Now hold up a second. I'd just like to make a request of my Patreon subscribers, those of you who've got access to my Tesla valuation model that is. Please pull up my bull case, scroll down and look at my supercharging long-term assumptions and check out my cost per kilowatt hour for non-Tesla electric vehicles. You will notice something, 33 cents per kilowatt hour. What are the odds? It's definitely a coincidence, and I do mean that. I'm sure Morgan Stanley aren't looking at my Tesla valuation model, but what a strange coincidence. I got 33 cents. They got 32 cents. Now, look, I'm just being a bit facetious. It's pretty obvious. If you do actually use your brain and think about this stuff, apparently Morgan Stanley can use their brain on some things, just not others. Shout out to their EV adoption assumptions. It's likely you'll draw very similar conclusions. I'm sure this won't be the only coincidence that lines up pretty closely with my own estimates, but just wanted to put that out there. I do encourage my Patreon supporters, go fact check me. This has been in my valuation model now for about a year. As I mentioned previously, I used to exclude supercharging. I put it in more recently, almost a year ago, just to show how meaningless it is. That included third-party supercharging, and then a couple of months ago, suddenly, Ford and GM are now accessing Tesla's supercharging network. It's almost like I have a crystal ball. I'm just kidding, I don't have a crystal ball, but I do have a brain. So things that are obvious and inevitable end up happening. Again, great opportunity to plug my valuation model. You may not agree with the assumptions, but the good thing is you can use your own assumptions. I'm just sharing mine. All scenarios valued at 20 times 2030 NOPAT discounted at 9% weighted average cost of capital. The reasonable case assumes 10% EV miles penetration, 50% Tesla share of supercharging, and 30% NOPAT margin. Potential net present value of $3 a share. The plausible case assumes 20% EV miles penetration, 70% Tesla share of supercharging, and 50% NOPAT margin. Potential net present value of $14 per share. The dominant case assumes 30% EV miles penetration, 80% Tesla share of supercharging, and 70% NOPAT margin. Potential net present value of $33 per share. The monopoly case assumes 50% EV miles penetration, 100% Tesla share of supercharging, and 80% NOPAT margin. potential net present value of $78 per share. As we have written about previously, we view the charging network as an extension of the battery itself. Ubiquity of charging will impact the design, chemistry, and size of an EV's battery, which is where we believe investors may find room to add incremental lines to their Tesla model. We have long believed Tesla would supply batteries to other OEMs, and of our $200 price target, $28 is related to third-party battery supply. When can the market come around to this? If you guys want to look in detail, the Tesla supercharging NOPAT valuation here, like I said, I think more on Stanley's estimates for total EV miles, EV adoption are so low it's embarrassing, and I will roast them in 2031 early in the year when it turns out that the number of new electric vehicles sold in the United States was way above their 25% estimate. And I mean multiples above it. We're going to move on. Just wanted to run through a few key numbers from more on Stanley's sensitivity analysis. They're expecting 20% of total miles in 2030 to be electric. That equates to 746 billion miles traveled. Just want to jump in here, by the way. What are the odds that robo-taxis exist and more miles in total are traveled, way more miles in total are traveled than anyone would have expected? And in addition to that, compounding the massive margin of error, Morgan Stanley are also underestimating EV miles in general. In other words, these numbers are way too low, in my opinion. Of those EV miles, Morgan Stanley expecting 20% will be supercharged, as opposed to charging at home, I assume. And of those, 70% will be Teslas and 30% non-Tesla. For those wondering, I'm much more conservative in my supercharging network estimates for third-party access, just 20% of non-Tesla EVs using the network, Morgan Stanley at 30%. And I think they're probably closer to the mark, but I always like to leave a little bit of wiggle room because I have a very clear optimism bias. Again, that price per kilowatt hour of 32 cents. What a coincidence. Tesla revenue, $8.4 billion in 2030. Let's see how that compares to mine. What are the odds? I'm very close to my own. Skipping ahead a little bit. Morgan Stanley assigning $83.5 billion of value to Tesla's market cap for the supercharging, discounting it back. Net present value, about $50 billion. So at this point in time, Morgan Stanley assuming Tesla supercharging network, $13.60 of value per share to Tesla stock. I would just like to take a moment, as I've mentioned, in my valuation model, supercharging profits accounting for less than 1% of Tesla's total profits at the end of this decade. Tesla stock, as I record this, $260 per share. If you want to use real simple numbers, let's just say supercharging adding less than $2.60 to Tesla shares in 2030 in my valuation model. Morgan Stanley have Tesla's supercharging business contributing much more to Tesla's valuation. What this suggests to me is that Morgan Stanley are missing a few tricks. Now, maybe I'm wrong, or maybe Morgan Stanley are wrong, as usual. And by wrong, I just mean really late to the party, and eventually I'll be doing update videos. Oh, look, Morgan Stanley have just added this thing that's been in my valuation model for a few years. Let's check my assumptions. Oh, what a coincidence. They're really close. Wow. Better late than ever, Morgan Stanley. Now, I don't want to be too much of a dick here, but the facts are the facts. Morgan Stanley have essentially just posted a research note to their investor clients with numbers fairly close to the estimates that have been in my valuation model for almost a year, after the news that other companies would begin accessing Tesla's supercharging network, which itself I've been calling for years. Remember, credibility must be earned. Sorry to say it, but Morgan Stanley have yet to earn theirs. These are the same folks who just 4 years ago had a 66 cent per share split adjusted bear case for Tesla stock that never made any sense. Got lots of headlines though. Maybe that was really why they published it. I just have to bring this up again as we close. 25% EV penetration in the US by 2030 and only 75% by 2040. Hope you guys understand that my obnoxiousness is in direct proportion to how far off the mark these clowns are. If this was less embarrassing, I would be less obnoxious. But it is so embarrassing, I need to make sure that everybody understands. Everyone behind these estimates should resign in disgrace when it turns out they weren't off by 1 or 2 or 10 or 15%, but that they were off by multiples. People, not most of you guys, but there are people out there who actually rely on this research. Oh, Morgan Stanley, they're credible. Yes, 25%. Oh, that's not as much as, oh, okay, maybe the opportunity is not so big. The moral of the story here, of course, is don't listen to me, don't listen to more on Stanley. Do your own analysis, build your own Tesla valuation model, use your own assumptions. I know most of you are too lazy to do that, but that's the best way. And if you'd like a starting point, you can always download my Tesla valuation model on Patreon and then use your own assumptions. Check the link in the pinned comment to join Patreon at the investor level and above so you can gain access. And you know what I'd really love? More folks on Wall Street to publish their own valuation model. And I don't mean for free, I'll pay for it. I just want to see what these folks are assuming. What are the numbers? What are the assumptions? Because right now, it's almost like there's a walled garden, a total lack of transparency. Now, there are exceptions, but in terms of analysts, good luck finding any of these folks publicly sharing their Tesla valuation models. If anyone knows, by the way, any of these firms have actually published them, just send me a DM on Twitter. I would love to see what they assume. Maybe the reason they don't like to share these assumptions is because they know they're going to be embarrassed by them in the future and they'd rather people not actually know what they were. So hey, credit where it's due. At least Morgan Stanley are willing to publish this embarrassing research and these incredibly low estimates. They won't age well, but at least they have the balls to put them out there into the interwebs so people like me can point, laugh, roast and ask you to set reminders to revisit them when it turns out that was super embarrassingly wrong. Athletic Greens AG1 has given me a massive, meaningful boost in energy, allowing me to do a lot more every day, including using my brain more and using my body more. I highly recommend you guys and girls check it out. Athletic Greens AG1 is an excellent way to fill in nutritional gaps. It's got 75 high-quality vitamins, minerals, and whole food source nutrients, plus prebiotics and probiotics and digestive enzymes and adaptogens to help you deal with stress. Plus, if you click the link in the pinned comment or head to drinkag1.com/SMR, you can get yourself a 1-year free supply of vitamin D3 and K2. But don't take my word for it. Here's what some of you guys and girls have to say. AG1 has changed my life. I was, as you described, treating myself like a circus, ate like trash, rarely exercised, used alcohol as a stress crutch, cannabis also. AG1 is what gave me the kick in the ass, got me back to the gym, motivated me to do more for myself, family, my business, etc. Keep doing what you do. Now, I know there's some skeptics, the same kind of people who think Elon Musk is a fraud, reading this going, what do you thought? There's no way that's possible, bro. It must be a placebo effect. Believe it or not, this is a recurring theme. If you give your body everything it needs to feel and perform its best, including having a lot more energy, you'll need ways to use that energy. For me personally, that includes more exercise, moving my body more social activity, and more cognitively demanding tasks, including producing a fuck ton of exclusive content over on Twitter and on Patreon, plus my daily YouTube uploads. The proof's in the pudding. On to another testimonial from a viewer of this channel. SMR, you asked me to provide feedback on AG1. Here it is. It has helped with mental acuity, stamina, and intestinal waste management. Can't read between the lines. Certainly helps with regularity and digestion. That's what the digestive enzymes are for. It has also dramatically reduced my cravings for sugar. You guys need to stop eating sugar. It's fucking poison. I'm 50, 5'9", and overweight, aka a fat motherfucker. I think that's a technical term for overweight, isn't it? Is it fat motherfucker or obese? I can't remember. I average 100 hours a week in the West Texas oil fields as a safety supervisor. Jesus Christ, dude. No wonder you're struggling to keep your weight under control. 100 hours a week. Brutal. It has helped me lose weight. It is not an appetite suppressant. It can help fat people suppress cravings, and motivation to be healthier is critical for changing your diet. Love you, brother. Again, this is a great point and something people really don't seem to grasp. If you have more energy, everything becomes easier. It's like turning on easy mode for life. A few years ago, before I was taking AG1, my health was trash. I was struggling to get through the day, had afternoon fatigue. The last thing I wanted to do was either use my brain or move my body. Didn't have the energy. Now, my biggest struggle every day is figuring out ways to use that energy. I'm exercising way more, doing a lot more with my friends and family, and of course, my work output has increased substantially. And you can fact check me. Check out the average length of my videos I was posting to YouTube 3 years ago. Need I say more? And one final testimonial. Love this one. Okay, here's the deal for me with this AG1 shit. I'm 41 years old and not the type to eat, drink, smoke, or sleep healthy, so I was skeptical. That being said, here's what I experienced. Day 1, meh. Day 2, afternoon fatigue was about 45 minutes late. Day 3, 0 afternoon fatigue. Day 4, 0 afternoon fatigue plus extra energy. Day 5, again, 0 afternoon fatigue plus energy. Wondering, what the fuck, really? See, this is the thing, right? The results for many people are just almost too good to be true. This is the same experience I had. My afternoon fatigue just vanished out of nowhere. I'm like, wait, what the fuck? Why am I not tired in the afternoons anymore? Surely, it's not that AG1, is it? Turns out it was. Day 6 and 7, same thing. Day 8, same thing. Plus, I had the want to get things done around the house that I normally would slack off and not get done. Again, the point, extra energy, you'll need to use it. You'll find ways to use it. Day 9, 10, and 11, and today is day 12. I fucking love it. So however you managed to get me to buy it, I'm so glad you did. Thank you so much, SMR. It really changed me so far. Guys, this shit really works. Just try it. By the way, this is the reason I continue to relentlessly promote AG1. A lot of people get real fucking mad in the comments. Oh my God, snake oil salmon sold out. Oh my God, he's a scammer. This is fraud. But constantly, I'm pretty sure everyone making these comments is also currently short Tesla stock. I'm not particularly concerned about people having a negative perception, those folks suffering from small brain syndrome, still living in my bum's basement syndrome, etc., writing mean comments, claiming AG1's a scam or it doesn't work. I mean, bro, when I get feedback like this is what keeps me going. And remember, there is a 90-day money-back guarantee. There's nothing to lose here. Just try this stuff for a month, and if you don't get these results, get your money back. See, it's a literal no-brainer. It's an IQ test at this point in time. Testimonial after testimonial after testimonial like this. Get your money back if it doesn't work. Just try it for a month, and if it doesn't work, get your money back. Today's the day. It's finally time. Be like this guy who was a massive skeptic, but finally, after 1,000 promotions in a row, caved in, tried AG1, and has results like this. Head to drinkag1.com/SMR or click the link in the pinned comment, and please, let me know how you're feeling in a few weeks' time. Now, if you'll excuse me, time to put my extra energy to good use. I'll be recording some more exclusive content for Patreon and my Twitter subscribers. So click the links in the pinned comment, see you over on Twitter and or Patreon, and don't forget to grab your AG1. Love ya.